All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something really, really practical. We're going to take a hard look at what it actually takes to go from being a skilled shooter to a professional firearms instructor here in Florida. And we're zeroing in on those high traffic areas, Tampa, Orlando, Lakeland, places where you have a ton of students and the legal environment is, well, it's complicated.
It's incredibly complex.
So our mission for this deep dive, and this is all drawn from the material we've been digging into, isn't just about, can you shoot a tight group?
Yeah, not at all.
It's pure professional risk management. The source material we have, how to choose the right firearms instructor mentor in Florida, makes one thing crystal clear. When you step into that instructor role, you accept heavy legal responsibility, instructional accountability, and professional risk for every single student.
For every single one. That's the key.
So if you choose a mentor just because they're convenient or their course is cheap, you're not buying a career path. You're buying risk. You could be left completely exposed, legally and technically.
Yeah, you're buying a future problem.
Exactly. So we're going to break this down. First, we'll talk about the real weight of the job and Florida's confusing regulatory map. Then we'll get into the 3 critical legal pillars that define your liability. And finally, we'll give you a real actionable checklist for vetting a mentor.
It's fascinating because the whole conversation it changes the moment you decide to teach.
How so?
It shifts from, am I competent with my firearm, to, am I competent in managing liability? The second you take on that instructor title, you take on this unique legal exposure that goes way, way beyond that moment on the firing line.
Okay, so what does that exposure actually look like?
Well, the source material breaks it down into 4 areas. First, students' behavior during your class. Second, their competency. Did they actually meet the standard or just show up? Third, every single safety call you make on the range.
Right.
And this last one, this is the one that really gets people. Any post-training incidents that involve one of your former students.
Hold on. So you're saying if I train someone and I do a perfect job, right, and then 6 months down the line they do something completely unrelated, something negligent.
Yep.
I can still get pulled into court for that. I mean, how is that even fair?
That is the exact question a plaintiff's attorney will love to explore, and the liability exposure is absolutely real.
Wow.
And that's why the material hammers this point. Mentorship has a dual nature. A real mentor isn't just watching you run drills. They have to prepare you for both instructional performance and legal protection. If they only focus on your draw speed and ignore the paperwork, they're giving you half a career and all the risk.
And that ties right into the mess that is the regulatory landscape in Florida.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just assume there's this one single firearms instructor license.
It's a dangerous assumption. Florida does not have one universal license. It's more of a patchwork. Yeah. You might have a specific Florida license for, say, armed security training under Chapter 493. Then you have your industry certs, NRA, that kind of thing, and then agency-specific programs.
But the real protection, the professional layer, that comes from what you build on top of the certificates, right?
100%. We're talking about getting proper range authorization, having documented safety standards, setting up your business the right way.
In insurance. Can't forget the liability insurance.
Absolutely. That's the bridge from being a hobbyist to a professional. The systems fragmentation creates this idea that a piece of paper means you're good to go, but a real mentor teaches you how to operate, how to form an LLC to protect your house, how to read an insurance policy. It's not just about teaching someone to shoot, it's about teaching you how to run a business that can withstand legal scrutiny.
Okay, so let's unpack that legal scrutiny. That professional foundation is the armor. What are the spears being thrown at? What are these 3 legal pillars our mentor has to teach us?
Right. This is the why. These are the legal theories that can just dismantle a career. The first and most direct is firearms instructor liability.
Okay, what does that mean in simple terms?
It's your direct responsibility for what you teach, how you teach it, and critically, who you teach it to. You have a clear duty of care. A mentor has to drill you on negligence standards, risk control, and this is huge, competency evaluation.
Not just participation.
Exactly. It's not enough that the student paid the course fee. You need documented proof that they met an objective standard. If a mentor dismisses all that as just paperwork, that's a massive red flag. They were literally telling you to ignore your primary defense.
That distinction between participation and competency is everything.
Yeah.
If you can't prove they mastered the skill, you've got nothing.
So what's pillar 2? This is the one that goes beyond the classroom, right?
This is vicarious liability.
Yeah.
Think of it this way. If you lend your car to a friend you know is a reckless driver and they cause an accident,
You could be on the hook.
you're on the hook.
Yeah.
In training, if your student is later negligent, you can be held responsible if the training you gave them was incomplete or reckless. The court asks, did this instructor contribute to this bad outcome?
So how do you defend against that? Process. A mentor must teach you process. Rigorous student screening, documented objective competency standards, clear no-go thresholds and removal policies. This is so important in places like Tampa or Orlando, where you see a high volume of students from all walks of life. Your entire defense is proving you did your due diligence every single time.
The process of the protection. Got it. Okay, pillar 3. This one sounds tough.
Yeah.
It's about judging character.
It's the career ender, negligent entrustment.
Right.
This is when you train or certify someone you knew or reasonably should have known was unsafe, unstable, or just unqualified.
Wow. So you're not just a teacher, you're a gatekeeper.
You are absolutely a gatekeeper, and you have a legal and ethical duty to act like one. A qualified mentor must teach you how to identify behavioral red flags. The student who ignores safety commands, who's volatile, who says things that are concerning.
And it's not enough to just spot them.
No. You need procedures. How do you document a warning? How do you remove them from class? How do you write a legally defensible record that says, I refuse to certify this person on this date for these specific documented safety reasons? If your mentor isn't having this conversation with you, they are fundamentally failing you.
So we have this ironclad legal foundation. But let's shift gears. Instruction isn't just about avoiding getting sued. It's about being excellent. The source material points out that lots of people can shoot well, but very few can teach well.
And even fewer can teach defensibly.
Right. So the mentor has to build this dual skill set. You need the teaching skills, adult learning, diagnosing errors, building lesson plans. But every part of that has to be linked to the question, how do I document this to protect myself?
Exactly. And the mentor's own behavior is the blueprint. If they run a tight ship with written policies, non-negotiable safety, and good documentation, that's what you learn is normal. That becomes your standard.
And the opposite is true.
Oh, absolutely. If the mentor cuts corners, spits the paperwork, gives vague encouragement instead of real correction, you learn that cutting corners is okay. And in this business, that habit leads straight to legal trouble, losing your insurance or getting banned from a range. It's the difference between being a pro and being one incident away from disaster.
So a serious mentor is really demonstrating a process, written policies, structured briefings, good records, and professional humility, being calm under pressure.
Yes. And if you zoom out, the long-term cost of a bad mentor is way more than the course fee. We're talking civil lawsuits, reputational ruin. The sources are clear that instructors usually fail not because they can't shoot, but because they were never trained to operate like a professional.
Which brings us to the most actionable part, the checklist. What you, the listener, should be using to vet a mentor in Tampa, Orlando, anywhere. We need questions that cut right through the marketing.
For sure.
First one, seems obvious, but it's critical. Does the mentor have a valid firearms instructor license or certificate? And the source material adds a little warning here.
It does. It says a license tops a certificate any day at court.
Because it implies a higher level of state scrutiny.
Exactly. After that, you need to probe their operating system.
Okay.
Don't just ask if they cover liability. Ask them to show you. Ask, can I see your written policy for removing an unsafe student?
That's a good one.
Or, how do you document safety violations? Is it in a logbook? And how do you teach use of force based on Florida statutes, not just war stories?
You have to ask them directly about the 3 pillars.
You have to. How do you train instructors to mitigate their exposure to instructor liability, vicarious liability, and negligent entrustment? If the answer is vague or they dismiss it, you walk away. And finally, how do you evaluate competency? What's the written standard a student must meet?
And the material says observation is huge. If you can, go watch a class. Don't watch their shooting. Watch their process.
Yes. Are the range commands clear? Is the lesson structured? Are they giving real specific corrections, not just good job? Is there a professional atmosphere? That tells you more than any Instagram post.
So you're looking for someone who's teaching from authoritative sources.
Right. Are they referencing Florida statutes? Are they familiar with state licensing standards?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they just teaching a generic lesson plan they downloaded? The final choice comes down to this. Does this mentor operate with documented accountability, defensible training practices, and total professional discipline?
That's the core of it. So the main takeaway for you, listening, is this. Don't pick a mentor based on price or convenience or how cool they look online. Pick the one who makes your future career stronger and safer,
Mm-hmm.
because their standards, their discipline, their paperwork, all of that will shape your legal exposure for years. It will affect every single student you ever train.
And given that intense focus on documentation process, here's a final thought for you to chew on. If that meticulous record keeping is your ultimate shield against liability, what are the 3 fastest ways a sharp plaintiff's attorney could destroy the credibility of your student records in court? And what you need to do every single day to protect those documents from that attack?
A fantastic and slightly terrifying thought to end on. It really brings it all home.
Because that daily professional accountability, that's what separates a successful instructor from the one facing career ruin.
A perfect place to wrap this deep dive. Thank you for joining us. We hope this knowledge helps you make your next step a safe and professional one.